Good evening to all of the Crime Talk aficionados out there. Thank you for joining us. This is Crime Talk. My name is Scott Reich, and this is our Tuesday night live show. Thanks for being patient. Was finishing up a call and had to take care of a couple of things. And now we are here to begin our Tuesday night live show. Welcome to everyone. For those of you who may are joining us for the first time, my name is Scott Reich. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney, been doing it for 27 years. Handle just about every type of case you could possibly imagine. So when I'm giving you my opinion or advice as to what may take place, what's going on whether it's the prosecution side or the defense side, I like to think that we do speak from a position of authority for sure, because, well, I've done it. And like I said, handled everything. Just yesterday, I was in a preliminary hearing in the afternoon for a homicide case. I'm waiting on a ruling regarding a bond issue on a double homicide case. So that's kind of what we do here in my office. But Crime Talk, we talk to you about the cases that are going on out there today. And the reason why we started this show is I was so frustrated as to, usually with people on the evening news, how frustrated I was becoming with them not knowing or understanding anything that was really taking place in the legal system. And when they did try to talk about it, they got it wrong. So hopefully when we talk to you about it, we're giving you a little bit more than that little snippet. And we are also coming to you with a little bit of knowledge as to what's going to take place. I mean, not to jump way too far back. When we started this case, the Chris Watts case was out. When we started this channel, the Chris Watts case was going on. And the whole thing was going on. And there was something came up there, like they're either going to reschedule the preliminary hearing or there's going to be a plea. And I called it. And I was like, see, every now and then, even a blind squirrel can find a nut. Scott Reich got it right. Well, I kind of had a feeling that something was going to happen. Anyway, that was a long time ago. And for the most part, I think we're still calling it correct. And you say, well, what is going on with that, Scott? Well, the breaking news today is Alec Murdoch going to be charged? Well, it certainly sounds like it. That was kind of speculation earlier in the day, but now Alec Murdoch's brother has confirmed that the family has been told by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or the State Law Enforcement Division SLED there in South Carolina, that Alex Murdoch will be charged with the murder of his son and his wife, Maggie and Paul. Now, when this case first started, this all kind of came about when Paul Murdoch was out driving his boat. Ms. Beach got thrown from this boat and she died. And basically the Murdoch powerhouse showed up at the hospital telling everybody, we're going to lawyer you up. Don't say a word. Everything's going to be fine. Ultimately, charges are filed against Paul for the death of a young lady by the name of Mallory Beach. Kind of brought attention to it. And I followed it. And as I've told you all before, I lived in the low country down there. I'm very familiar with the dock and even the bridge that they crashed that boat on there in South Carolina, because it was on Parris Island. And in a long ago, in a previous life, many years ago, I was stationed down there. So I'm very familiar with it. I love the low country. I just went back there. The lovely Miss Kristen and I jumped in Crime Talk 1 and flew down to the low country and stayed at the Montage down there in Bluffton, South Carolina. It gave us an opportunity to also check on some property down there. And I love it. And what was the talk of the town? The Murdoch thing. And when I was back there, maybe a year or so, less than a year, I went to one of my favorite little cigar shops in that area and asking the locals, what's going on? Everybody was talking about the Alec Murdoch case. And why? Well, you got a family that's basically run the low country down there for the last, 100 years, so to speak, where somebody with the last name of Murdoch has been in a position of power in the district attorney's office. Okay. And that is a powerful position. You know who's under investigation, who's doing shady stuff, who's going to be charged. Gee, are we going to be able to resolve this precarious situation that everyone seems to be in? Or are we going to, use some prosecutorial discretion and make the whole thing go away? And so, anyway, this whole case started, and just everything started to focus on it. And then it looked like, the case was getting ready to go to trial. And then back in June of 2021, I guess it was, right? Yeah. Paul and Maggie were gunned down at this, they call it hunting lodge down there, I guess. But it's some property that the Murdochs owned. And Paul Murdoch was apparently shot with a shotgun a couple times, upper torso, head area. The wife, Maggie, was shot multiple times with a described as a high-powered rifle. Now, depending on who you believe, and apparently we have to take Mr. Alec Murdoch's word with a grain of salt these days, because apparently his, lock solid alibi may not be so lock solid after all. And he discovered the bodies, called the police, and he was so distraught and what have you. Then things started to crumble. The civil theft started to be found out from clients, where Murdoch's hooking up his buddies through other, his house cleaners, dies on the stairs, puts her head on the stairs at the property, gets his friend from law school to represent her, gets another buddy from the bank to be the personal representative, settles the case for $4 million and some change, and never bothers to tell the family members they got the money. The money goes off in all these different directions, and, just craziness there. Then Alec Murdoch tries to attempt suicide, I guess, with his little buddy, Mr. Smith, and doesn't die, but shoots Alec Murdoch in the head. The story doesn't make sense. Basically, it turns out to be one big insurance fraud. He just forgot to read the fine print. Suicide wasn't covered. And so he's got that problem. Then he gets indicted for basically being the partner with his partner in crime for drug distribution. Now, in the meantime, remember, he's supposedly some prominent, respected member of the South Carolina bar. And normally when somebody gets suspended, when something like these allegations come about, they get suspended. Well, the Supreme Court today disbarred Alec Murdoch without the investigation that normally takes place through attorney regulation, which can sometimes take years from our ranks as quickly and as expeditiously as possible. So Alex Murdoch, now disgraced former disbarred attorney, looks like he's now going to be charged with murder of his wife Maggie and their son Alex. Crazy stuff, and that's been confirmed by the family, and they're going to be notified of that, not just out of professional courtesy, so to speak, but because they're, victims' families, for goodness sakes. So they're, it's coming, and it just makes you wonder. I mean, you look at this guy, they're all dressed up in their tuxedos and their suits, and you think, what the hell happened? All this guy had to do is basically show up, write his family name, could have made a comfortable living. No one seems to really have been able to find out where all the money went. They were apparently in debt. The wife, Maggie, just prior to her demise, sounds like they were separated. She wanted an accounting regarding their assets in the house, in the property, and basically kind of wanted to know, where's all the money. I think a lot of people would like to know that as well. So, I mean, when this case started, gosh, a couple years ago, my goodness, my goodness, I was like, oh, there's something about this case. It's got an interesting side to it. And everybody loves it. And I don't want to take too much pleasure in this, but everybody loves it when somebody in a position of power that's had that kind of born with a silver spoon in their mouth and basically screws it all up. All they had to do was just keep going with the plan, so to speak. But the old adage, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. He couldn't do that. Apparently, he had to do it the illegal way, so to speak. And here he is now. It looks like he is going to be, charged for the death of his wife and his son. So the question becomes, was he the guy that was there, or was he a conspirator and had somebody else do it? Now, you have to remember, the police obviously must not have believed Alec Murdoch's story pretty quickly. And the police, when the murders took place, said, well, we're really not too concerned that there's some crazy madman out there killing people random and indiscriminately. So they knew something was up. And then there's a report that maybe there's some blood splatter or something on a shirt that Alex Murdoch had. And I'm sure he'll try to explain it away. If in fact he's charged, and always remember, never forget, we give everybody the presumption of innocence unless and until they are convicted in a court of law or they plead guilty. And that's obviously what we'll do to the Murdochs. You never know what will happen, but you really must have to wonder, where did this guy go wrong that he would want to be involved in the death of his wife and his son, Paul, who was 22 at the time. And then he talks to his other son, Buster, just like, no big deal. Hey, let's get you back into law school. Everything's going to be fine. So obviously, I think that is kind of the big news today. And I'm telling you, this story has legs. It's going to be interesting. And there's so much to it. And finally, I think people will be saying, wow, this is going to be good. And kind of what we've known for a long time. All right, let me make sure I can see all of these. I keep getting these pop-up things on my screen, and I want to just be able to see the comments. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Kind of a big introduction, but appreciate everyone being here. Really do. Another thing I want to talk about tonight is the Jose Alba, the guy that worked in a little bodega up in New York, where this Austin Simon guy comes in to defend his girlfriend's honor because her EBT card doesn't go through for a $3 bag of chips. Mr. Alba takes the chips back and says, you can have the chips when you pay. He tries to run the card again. She gets her boyfriend, comes in here and tells him, go take care of Mr. Alba. Mr. Alba, in fear of death or serious bodily injury, stabs Mr. Austin Simon, and he ultimately dies. The girlfriend, who hasn't been identified, stabs Mr. Alba, but yet she's not charged because she was defending the guy that was supposed to be in there roughing up Mr. Alba, and, well, he gets stabbed. So if there's anyone there from New York in the comment section, particularly New York City, I would really love to know, what are you all thinking when you elect these particular district attorneys? Is it because nobody else is running and it's just this bad and these are the only choices you had to choose from? And would you really like this to continue? Because it's only going to get worse. I can only imagine it's going to get even worse. And then also later this afternoon, the video from the Uvalde shooting has been released. Now, I don't think it's too bad. Most you hear what sounds like to be gunfire in the background, but you can see the punk coward walk into the store or the school, very nonchalant, after, of course, he wrecks his into the school, not really kind of looking really where he's going. But let me see if I can pull that up as well. I just had that. But it shows the police kind of standing around. And there were plenty of police. I'm sure, hey, maybe they would have been taking a little bit of an injury to themselves. Who knows? It's dangerous business. But there were a lot of police officers there. They could have done something. 57 minutes. I mean, there's going to be there's a guy there on his phone. I swear to gosh. They're on their phone looking at it. He goes over and gets some hand sanitizer off the wall when all this stuff's going down. And that guy's like tucking it in hard over there. While all the shooting goes down. I mean, it looked like they had the gear. Total failure. I know the police chief has not resigned as the police chief, but he resigned as city councilman. And I mean, the guy just needs to resign. It's always easy to sit here and and second guess what somebody woulda, coulda, shoulda done with complete hindsight perspective. But when you're a first responder like that, you're supposed to be, when everyone else is running away from the gunfire, you're supposed to be going towards it to save the kids. That's what you sign up for. That's what you train for. And frankly, if you're not willing to do that, maybe that's just not the line of business that you need to be in. And maybe it'd be a good time to find something else to do. So that's a little disturbing as well. And then, Frank, do you have that video of this toddler? This is absolutely unbelievable to me. Let's go ahead and take a look at this.
Shut up, bitch! Homecoming face ass. Shut up, bitch! Why you pushing out little kids? Shut the fuck up! Versus that don't look like this. But you got those ugly ass churches like that. I'm frying his ass. His deep fried Oreo head ass. I said, when I go one of them in a frying pan, they ass gonna burn.
What in the heck is that? So that was officers in Minnesota who are executing a search warrant, basically standing out there as protection. Got people, looks like some adults, or at least teenage age, who are saying things to the police officers not exactly nice. But the shocking thing is, you've got kids, what, 2, 3? First of all, they're out in their underwear in the middle of the day or whatever time it is, I guess, doesn't really matter. But they're slapping the police officers, dropping the F-bomb on the police officers, and repeatedly hitting them. And the police are like, are you kidding me? Like, I watched that video a couple of times, and it shocks me to believe that someone would allow their children to behave that way. And then on top of that, to get to the point, like, what kind of parents would teach their children to talk like that at such a young age and to engage in such conduct at such a young age? thinking it's okay to hit the police officers. Somebody in that family thought that was okay. I didn't see anybody pulling their kids back and swatting them on the butt saying, we don't do that. We don't disrespect it. And remember, these police officers were there to execute a search warrant looking for somebody that was involved in a homicide. And this is what they have to put up with on a daily basis. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been a criminal defense attorney for a long time. There are many, many police officers I would not trust to look for my dog, okay? But it's a very small percentage. The majority of them are really good. And then there's several out there that are absolutely great, okay? But this is the kind of crap that these police officers have to put up with on a daily basis. And it just shows you like what is going on, but it explains a lot. It explains why society has kind of come to the point where it is, where nobody respects authority at all anymore. And it just makes me wonder, where did the total breakdown of society take place? Okay. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll get to your comments here. It's just shocking to me. Shocking, shocking, shocking. Let me get down here to see if I can. Yeah, somebody says it's blurry here too. That's weird. It's very interesting.
Yeah,
I think it's an internet speed thing. We it kind of comes and goes. Yeah, notice that on mine here too, which is very odd to me. Well, we have people from Australia on with us, Ohio, Chicago, anyone from New York, Philadelphia, Mississippi. Was just in Mississippi the other day, and I found out a guy that I know is moving to Mississippi. He's an attorney, and decided he needed to change, was moving to Mississippi. Wow, Oklahoma, we got it all covered. Yeah, blurry and freezing up. I'm sorry, I apologize. Not sure what is going on, but hopefully it will get better. Brenda from Mississippi. Samantha, sorry, we're running a little bit late. Sometimes in the things in the practice of law. Now, let me tell you. This is a good comment here. Mara, most of us in South Carolina figured out he was guilty right after the murders. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be interesting, and obviously the police had to be looking at Alec Murdoch as the prime suspect, so to speak. I mean, his son has kind of put his little empire in jeopardy because they're getting sued and there's going to be a judgment. And that judgment was probably going to be in excess of anything the insurance was going to be. And then you're going to have to explain all the financial situations. There's no way he was going to be able to do that, which would make sense as to why he did what he did. The question is with Maggie. Was Maggie part of it, or did just show up? I don't know. Now, the one thing that I did learn about talking to many, many people down there in South Carolina when I was just down there even recently, the people that knew Alec Murdoch said he was the nicest guy, said he was the polite, really got along with everybody, tried to help people out, etc. Probably part of the big overall picture. And they said the person that really was not the nice person, and I hate to disparage somebody who's no longer here to defend themselves, but it was Maggie. That's what the word on the street was down there. So I was very surprised by that. But certainly her not being a nice person to everybody doesn't necessarily mean that she deserves to be deceased. Karen, she doesn't like such up country. Abortion is illegal, but it's okay to have your kids murdered at school. Fix your gun problem, USA. It's not a bloody rocket science. I understand, Karen, but you gotta, we have a constitution. But if people don't like the Constitution, guess what? They have to change it. You can't just say one day the Supreme Court says that's not what it means. Just, I get it. Juanetta Rogers, no bail for murder. So that's an interesting little subject here. So normally here in the state of Colorado, if somebody was charged with first-degree murder and the district attorney filed for what they call proof evident presumption great, and the court found that basically the proof is evident presumption great that the defendant was charged with first-degree murder or committed these acts, then they could be held without a bond. So the issue has come up, and we have filed a motion now in 2 homicide cases, which I think are rather interesting. Because, as you may all know or may recall, a couple years ago, our Colorado legislature didn't put it to the vote of the people, but they said, we know better than all of you, even though the polls said that most people support the death penalty. The Colorado legislature said, we are going to repeal the death penalty here in the state of Colorado. So no longer a death penalty for a capital offense. Well, somebody forgot to read the Colorado Constitution and their definition of a capital offense, that everybody's entitled to a bail when there's a capital offense, and guess what? The two conflict. Well, everybody knows in law school they teach you the law of the land is the Constitution. Well, actually, above that you got treaties. I'm sorry, Constitution, treaties, statutes, ordinance, etc., all the way down. So I said, Judge, you need to grant my client a bond because the proof evident presumption great standard doesn't exist. We no longer have a death penalty for capital offenses, which is defined as murder in the first degree, as defined by the Colorado Constitution. And since we no longer have that, she needs bail, since it's no longer a capital offense, basically. So one judge has agreed with us on that issue. The other one was kind of like, well, let me see what the other guy says. And but I'm not saying it is, but I'm going to deny bail. But if you can get me some more authority and show me what the other judge's order said, that a bond, right? The judge could have just got around it by saying, you're right, Mr. Reich. But and I'll just set the bond at, $5 million or $10 million, and the client will never make it, right? But now we got to, take it up to the Supreme Court. It's very, very interesting issue. As I've mentioned it many, many times on the show, words have meanings. They are interpreted by the courts to give the plain meaning and effect to the language in the statute or the Constitution. And when there's a conflict, then you have to go to your statutory interpretation rules established by the court, but they don't get to make things up. So I got one judge that says, you're right, set in a bond. Other judge, well, I think you're right. It's a colorable issue, but I don't want to be the guy that does it because, I'm here to be a judge. I got my retirement coming. I'm not here to make waves. So if somebody else, then let them do it. So I just thought that was an interesting issue because somebody says no bail for murder. And that's normally the case. But like I said, the people make a living for attorneys, create a living for attorneys. It's called the legislature and Congress because they get in such a hot hurry. They get so excited because they're going to do something. They usually screw it up when they want to just do something. And it creates years and years of litigation. The only people that, enjoy it are attorneys. But they had to do something. And so when they do something, they usually screw it up because they don't have time to read it. Everybody all these days. Well, we got to pass it before we can read it. Well, wouldn't you want to read the bill before? Because it's going to be a law then you can't go back and do it. It's kind of like, what was it up in Wisconsin? I think they basically legalized marijuana because something was taken out of a draft, but then nobody read it and it was put back in. And basically maybe it was Minnesota. I think it was Minnesota. So basically they've legalized marijuana up there. So remember that too. All right. Just like the people in New York, when you're voting for the politician, probably want to do the opposite. I think you should vote for somebody who's going to go to the legislature, who's actually going to read the bills. Just saying, read the bill, figure out what's in it before it goes to a vote. All right. Feel better. I feel much better getting that off my chest. It just drives me crazy. Yes. Jinby, yes. Remind everybody, please. Yes. Subscribe if you have not. Like the video if you do. I know we're live. And also, I always forget this. Super chats. We don't ask for them. We don't beg for them. I know there's some channels out there that's how they make their money. Super chat. I don't do that. I don't beg for anything like that. But I'm telling you, in the little feed that goes by, the super chats are much easier to read. And if you want me to undoubtedly see your question or comment, I will see it because it gets flashed right here on my screen. And then we can we'll read it out. Okay. And we'll keep going until all the super chats have been answered. How's that? Tina says, no surprise here. The most telling thing was him getting that guy to injure him. The only reason you would do that would be to act like someone else was out to get not only your wife and son, but yourself as well. Good point, Tina. But I can't wait to see what evidence they have for that. Jody, thank you. I think that's $5. I don't know if that's super chat. Appreciate it. Yeah, Robin Lee. Yeah. He murdered his wife's son, housekeeper. He's evil, referring to Alex Murdoch. Yeah, I mean, apparently his housekeeper had no real issues. She was getting older, but no problems. She falls and just happens to hit her head at his property. And he just happens to say, you should submit a claim against my insurance company. And don't worry, I'll get my best buddy from law school to be your attorney. And when the $4.2 million comes in, I'm telling you, there's somebody on the inside in the insurance company that was getting a piece of that. Mark my word, it hasn't come out yet. No, I don't have proof, but I am telling you, insurance companies do not pay $4.2 million for negligent slip and fall for in their 60s. No disrespect to the victim in this particular case, but no insurance company is going to pay $4.2 million for that. Not going to happen. The fix was in, which maybe makes it from a mere slip and fall to murder, perhaps. Just something to think about for sure. Lula says, oh my God, it's Scott's birthday. No. Sunday was my birthday. And a good birthday it was indeed. We had lots of birthday wishes. Appreciate that. That was very nice to do that. We had a big day. Hold on one second here. We got up and 11 Miss Kristen asked, what do you want to do for your perfect birthday? Do you want to go do this? I'm like, no. What do you want to do? I said, I want to go see Top Gun again. She's like, but you've seen it 4 times. And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's the fifth. And after the fifth time, only 495 more to go. And I can't tell you that the lovely Miss Kristen has pre-ordered it so that we can download it through the cable company when it comes out as well. Watch it the other 495 times, but it really needs to be viewed on the big screen. Frank is over there chuckling. Have you seen it yet? It's a great movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great movie.
Oh, it is.
It's a great movie.
It is really good.
Then I was able to have a fine cigar that, once again, the lovely Miss Kristen picked out for me. The Avett Brother concert at Red Rocks. And if you've never been to a concert at Red Rocks, well, it needs to become a bucket list item for sure. And we did that. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Avett Brothers, but I really like them. And we've gone up there. I think they probably been going for like the last 5 years, with the only exception is when they canceled everything at the because of COVID. And yeah, I've been going for so yeah, been going for 5 years now. And never been higher than about row 6. It's just fun. Avett Brothers these guys are so talented. I wish I could be that. I mean, seriously, they can sing, they play all these instruments. Man, some days makes you really wonder what. Yep. Oh, yep. There you go. Maggie was on Forensic Accounting. Then she's murdered. That's right. What is one of the 12 undeniable truths of a criminal defense attorney? That's right. It's always about the money. Rule number 4. And when they say it's not about the money, then it's really about the money. Okay? It's always about the money. Okay? Alec Murdoch needed money. Seems like he was in a lot of debt to people, owed lots of people. Maybe some very unscrupulous people, it sounds like, in his drug dealing activities, to the point where you would kill your wife and your son, for goodness sakes. Now, I don't practice in South Carolina, other than I did a federal case a couple years ago down there, but not in state court. I got called a couple months ago where somebody wanted me to represent him in South Carolina. And I said, I'd love to do it. I'd love to take your money. I said, but it's not really a good use of resources. Hire somebody local. You don't have to pay me. And put them in touch with somebody, and it worked out really well. But, they got the death penalty in South Carolina. And, maybe to show that the death penalty could be applied equally and fairly to all involved is, maybe if we use it on a rich guy or formerly rich guy, but somebody who completely abused it, maybe then people will say, wow, there may be some reason to keep this around, because we don't have it here anymore. And I think it's really hampered the district attorney's hands. And I don't say that as a criminal defense attorney. I've done a case where they said they were going to go death, and we ultimately convinced them not to do that. And that's my job. And I understand the legislature, remember the federal government has the death penalty, but the states, if it's not specifically listed in the Constitution, it's reserved to the states. Remember that? People had a big lesson on that a couple of weeks ago with the Dobbs opinion, as well as the New York Gun Club ruling that came as well. States can have their own law. So the states can't have any less protection than the federal government for fundamental rights. They can grant you greater protection than what's even allowed under the federal Constitution. And so, maybe, like I said, the legislature here passed it, which is weird because the legislature passed it, but there were polls here in our state that said if the voters would do it, they would have kept the death penalty. And I'm telling you, it's a tool for a prosecutor to have. Because, if somebody does something so heinous and they have all the aggravating factors that come in on the death penalty, you have aggravating factors, you have mitigating factors, something that would reduce the penalty there. They have to do that. But most people, ironically, that do terrible bad things to other people, usually results in those other people's death. They, surprisingly, you'd think they'd want to die. You'd think you'd rather die than want to spend your life in prison. I mean, I certainly think that would be my general thinking of it, kind of make peace with everybody, do it. But like, get me the heck out of here. To spend life in prison, I would not want to do that at all. But surprisingly, once people are told we're going to kill you through the death penalty, they all want to stay alive. You're going to have a crappy life in custody. You'll never get to be with anybody ever again. Life is going to suck. No, but that's okay. They say, I want to stick around for it. I get it. But it is what it is. But oftentimes the prosecutors would be told and say, hey, we'll take death penalty off the case if your client wants to plead guilty, wants to get this over right now. Because we know he's going to have a crappy life, but at least you won't have to worry about that. Save taxpayers a bunch of money, so let's just do it. But when you don't have it, if you can kill one person or 4 people or 5, 10, what's the big deal, right? Same punishment. You can't impose, now you have multiple life sentences. Life with one life per out with parole is enough. We got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 life sentences, multiple life sentences to be conserved consecutively, one after the other. Well, that one life without parole is going to do it. You're never going to get to serve the second life sentence. So I don't know. Maybe Mr. Murdoch's case, if he is in fact indicted and charged with murder of his wife, Maggie, and their son, maybe there's a little financial remuneration there, right? Some money, some benefit that they were going to gain by their death, i.e. life insurance, something along those lines. Certainly an aggravating factor for the death penalty, right? That's what they're using on the Lori Vallow matter, correct? So I don't know. Wouldn't it kind of be interesting to see kind of a rich guy or a rich white guy being, set, to death, a death penalty case? I'd watch. I think it'd be an interesting trial. I think it's going to be an interesting trial throughout. And this guy clearly believes that he can do no wrong and thought he was going to get away with it. And good question, Terry. I wonder if the other son. I wonder what the other son is thinking right now. Old Buster, right? One that got kicked out of law school for some plagiarism, but don't worry, his dad from behind prison bars was trying to make things work out. Yeah, Buster. If he killed, dad killed mom and son. Wow, that's right. People like the Murdochs believe they're above the law. But surprise, it can catch up. That's for sure. They got Buster Sr., the grandfather, but I don't, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, I don't practice in South Carolina. When I was stationed down there years and years ago, when I was only went to civilian court once or twice. But what the general feeling I got was that it was a very much of a good old boys club. And that's kind of the feeling that I got from talking with attorneys that I know down there, that it's a good old boys club, from the courts to the prosecutors to the attorneys and who's going to get the cases, etc. Which is wrong, but it's interesting that it's lasted so long and nobody's bothered trying to fix it. And I'm just curious. I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think about the Murdoch case. I think it's interesting. Here we go. I'm in South Carolina. This is Mary Ellen Cooper. Death penalty, yes. but Dylan Roof is still waiting and in protective custody. General population would save big dollars. Remember that little thing that we had? It was the trial was here in Denver, but it took place in when God, what's the guy's name? The Oklahoma City bomber guy. God, his name escapes me, but it was in front of Judge Mage, and no nonsense Mage. Timothy McVeigh was his name. Timothy McVeigh. Sorry, name escaped me for a second. And they got to Timothy McVeigh's. He got sentenced to death for killing, all those people when they bombed the Murray Federal Building there in Oklahoma City. And so he's down, I think, in like Canyon City, ADX, where we send all the bad people. Maybe ADX wasn't built yet, but whatever the maximum security prison was at the time. And they were doing their, kind of post-conviction review. Nathan Chambers was his attorney, as I recall. And the prosecution was basically like, oops, we found these box of documents, and maybe some of exculpatory would have changed the results. I don't know. But Nathan Chambers was prepared to make a big deal about it and do his duty for his client. And then his client, Timothy McVeigh, said, you know what? I'm done. Let's do it. Let's get on with it. And said, pull on my appeals, get me an execution date. Let's be done with it. And I know lots of people have mixed emotions about the death penalty. And I get it. I mean, there's lots of hard decisions out there where people think what's the right thing to do. And I'm not saying it's the absolute right thing to do. I don't think it should be used every case. But it's still on the books in lots of jurisdictions, and it is there hopefully as a deterrence, I guess. But it's certainly a tool for the district attorneys. But anyway, so Timothy McVeigh then he got moved to, I think, Terre Haute, Indiana, where he was supposed to. And I think somebody that's practiced criminal law for a long time, yes, there are times where you get clients that are like, listen, man, I know the odds are against me. Get me a good deal, or we'll just go to trial. You're like, of course, if there's no deal, the offer sucks. We'll go to trial. We'll make them crawl over glass to get a conviction, which is better. It's like, it's like all things in life. Competition's always better. Just like a trial, a contested trial brings out the facts. And if there's issues, then we know what's out there. But anyway, Timothy McVeigh gets up there and is like, yeah, let's do it. And I've had guys that said, same thing. Bring it on. I seriously, I have the most respect, and I don't know what it is, but I've had a couple of clients do this over the years. Usually like in a homicide case, it's like, it's life without parole. All right, we're going to prison. No need to have a hearing. No need to do a PSI. Let's bring it on. And had a client once that, literally he's like, Mr. Defendant so-and-so, there's only one sentence the court can impose in this particular circumstances, but we can probably have a sentencing and set it over, blah, 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 blah. And my client got up there and was like, let's do this. Bring it on. And I was like, we're done. The evidence was there. It was overwhelming. There was no offer. It was, plead guilty or go to trial. Okay. No offer, life without parole. That's not an offer. We'll go to trial. If we lose, it is what it is, right? We'll go do the appeal. But I don't know. I just have the utmost respect for that. And even like Timothy McVeigh, horrible human being, right? Killed all those people. What was it? 246, just working from memory here. It was so long ago. That was in the early 90s when that all happened. And I think the trial was in 95, but it was a 10th Circuit jurisdiction. Obviously, everybody in Oklahoma City had been affected by it. So they moved the trial up here, and it was Judge Mage. And Judge Mage just passed away a couple years ago, but when he was ill, he was still in his hospital room working on cases. And Judge Mage, I'm telling you, this guy grew up, I think he was in the southwestern part of the state. Let me tell you the story. Okay. I know some people like stories, other people don't, but we're kind of digressing. But sometimes you just got to go with it. So Judge Mage, he was the Oklahoma City bombing judge, right? And I remember I'm, doing matters in federal court. And, a lot of people just don't go, oh, I'm going to federal court. You kind of leap into it. But I was like, I was in the military. That's a federal court. It's the same thing. A little bit different. All right. Anyway, you got Judge Mage. And we're there in this multi-co-defendant case. And all the attorneys are there and they're making the way to the podium to make their entries of appearance and what have you. And one of the attorneys walks up to the podium and the judge looks at him as the attorney's making his appearance and walking back. Judge Mage says, Mr. So-and-so, stop. What kind of footwear do you have on your feet? So everybody kind of looks over, see what the guy's wearing. Like, is the guy in a pair of flip-flops or, Birkenstocks? Like, what's going on, right? He had on like some Gucci loafers. And the attorney looks down and looks at his feet and he goes, they're loafers, Your Honor. Judge Mage says, that is inappropriate footwear to appear before a United States District Court judge. Now remember, this judge is serious. And you didn't interrupt Judge Mage. You just kind of sat there, waited your turn until he asked you a question, and then you tried not to sound stupid. Okay? So he says, that is inappropriate footwear for appearing before a United States District Court judge. And he goes, you will wear either cowboy boots or your shoes will lace. No loafers. And like I said, Judge Mage, I think it was like 90 when he passed away last year or two. But he was, like I said, he was working even as a senior judge. He had like a kidney transplant and he was in his hospital room the day after his kidney transplant working on cases. Okay. But even to this day, even right now, when I go to U.S. District Court, I assure you, we do not wear the Gucci loafers. We put on our lace-up shoes, or if it's winter, we're wearing our cowboy boots. Bottom line, because Judge Mage would do it. I'm telling you, you don't mess with Judge Mage. That's just the way it is. He was a scary guy. And I remember once, I was a solo practitioner, and I had a case, and it used to be the United States District Court. They didn't care what else was going on. Case would come in, they would set a notice. They wouldn't call your office to say if that date worked. They would just set the date. So I remember I got a notice. It was a change of plea, motions hearing, something to that effect. And he sets it on a date that's like a Monday at 10 o'clock. So I move mountains to get all those court dates that I had set moved so that I could be in U.S. District Court. And then the court, like the last minute, sends out a notice saying that court date has been vacated due to the court's schedule. And therefore now it's moved to like Thursday or Friday. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? So I tried to move as much as I could, but I couldn't move at all. So I, because there was just other judge out there at somewhere else. So I filed a motion saying, Judge, this was originally set for whatever date, or you set it on this date. I moved mountains to move all these dates. And then you, because of a court conflict, then you changed the date. And now you moved it to another date. And I haven't been able to do that. And it's set for, you set this for 9 o'clock. I have another matter at 8:30. Can I move for a different date? And the judge's order was, the United States District Court judge vacates the 9 a.m. hearing. The matter is now moved to 10 a.m. Yep. Yes, sir, Judge Mage. Yes, sir. And guess what? I was there at 10 o'clock because Early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable in the United States District Court. I assure you of that. So once again, I may not have moved mountains, but I may have broken a few land speed records to get to that particular court appearance because I was not going to be held in contempt by Judge Mage. He was truly the hanging judge, so to speak. And he did the Oklahoma City bomb case. Everybody knew don't mess with him because he ran a tight ship. I think that trial took, I don't know, maybe 4 months or something. But he ran a tight ship on that thing and got it done. All right. Wow. It goes by so fast. It sure does. Okay. Ronnie says Buster Murdoch is in the upstate. I thought he was in Charleston, but maybe not. Lots to discuss. Yes. That's a good segue. Lots to discuss. Go to Patreon. So this makes me even more. Woodstock here. My brother lives in New York. He says there's a city and then there's the rest of New York. And it's probably like Boulder, Colorado. Boulder, Colorado is 12 square miles surrounded by reality. It's just the way it yeah. I always like these comments. Let's put the prosecutor in the same position as the bodega worker and see if he'll just sit there and let him beat him to a bloody pulp or even kill him. I somehow don't think so. I know B.M. Colby, but the problem is you have a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I am a criminal defense attorney. Some of these woke prosecutors are making my life very, very easy, okay? But as a member of the community, I look at some of the things that they're doing and some of the offers that they're making, and I sit there and think, oh my, I'm offended as the member of the community that you were making this offer, but I'll take it from my client, and then I'll be offended afterwards. It's crazy. It's crazy. And I get you. Each case has to be judged based upon the merits. Nobody likes mandatory sentencing guidelines. If you do this, you must get this. Kind of takes the whole range out there of sentencing options for the court. And we want the court. Remember, these judges, they've been appointed. They've been elected in some cases. They have to stand for retention in other cases. And so we're supposedly there to trust them to do the right thing. And if we don't think they do the right thing, we can vote them out as judges. Unless, of course, it's a federal judge. Because they have an appointment for life if they're what they refer to as an Article 3 judge. But that's okay. So let the judge decide. Give the judge a range, but give them some guidance. It's everybody gets all freaked out about this stuff. It's common sense. It really is. And I try to tell people this, that we, in the criminal justice system, and if you really study the criminal justice system, I mean, it's nothing new. It's been around since the beginning of civilization. There's always been that small percentage of the society that cannot function and get along with everybody else. They just don't want to be there, right? They can't function. They're going to take advantage of women, children, the elderly, the not so bright, and steal their money, things of that nature, do inappropriate things with them. These problems have been documented to the beginning of time. But yet we all sit around and act like, oh, this is a new problem. What should we do with people that do terrible things to women? Should we give them probation and maybe understand, or should we treat them harshly and maybe make sure they're never put in a position to do that again? Right? We looked at that. Um, do you want people that have proclivities for young children to be around young children? Should we make them scoutmasters? Should we make them priests? Things like that. We tried to avoid that, and they screwed up when they violated the common sense. Like, this is a bad person. They hurt children. We should probably do something, at least get them out of there, right? If not, help prosecute them. It's common sense, but yet nobody acts like they want to do it. And somehow these days are like, well, nobody needs any punishment. Nobody needs any rules or guidelines. Think about it, common sense. You ever been to somebody's house where the kids run around like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off because their parents let them do whatever they want? They're jumping on the furniture, they're doing whatever. And you're just sitting there thinking, God, if that was my kid, I would slap him on the butt so hard right now because he has no manners. And it looks like me as a parent, I must be a horrible parent because these kids have no discipline or self-control, right? And then you got the other parents who are like, no, you can behave. You can sit down. You can act like a gentleman. You can have manners. You can act like a young lady, right? All those. Why can't you have that same thing in society? There's certain rules. Yes, there are some rules that they're silly. They don't make sense. But for whatever reason, they're there. So you have to kind of follow them. And if you can't, guess what? We're going to put you in timeout. Maybe we won't send you to timeout, i.e. prison, immediately. We'll give you a shot, unless, of course, you've done something really bad. But the reality of it is you're going to go to timeout. It's just the cost of doing business for society, and people just don't realize. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to waste society's money on sending people to stupid stuff. As I've said this before, there is rape, murder, and violent crime. Those type of individuals are more than likely, society will deem it appropriate that they need to go to prison, usually to the point where they get so old that they're too old to harm somebody. Just saying. But we all act like everything's brand new and that now the big thing is, well, it's all about rehabilitation. And I can tell you, as an attorney that does criminal defense, there are so many damn specialty courts, you can't even keep up with this stuff anymore. I get it. Send you there. Oh, you got drug issues. Let's send you to drug court. Oh, you're an alcoholic. Let's send you to the alcoholic court. Okay. It's just another form of showing up for court, hand holding their hand, and hopefully they get through it. There's a lot of times it works, which is good. But I'm not that hand holding type of guy, right? I usually get hired to go try the cases. Yes, every case you have to work on mitigation. I think they refer to it as holistic lawyering now. You're treating the whole client. Well, I could tell the whole client, hey, it's DUI number 7 or 8. I think you got a drinking problem. Or actually, you may not have a drinking problem, but you definitely have a driving problem because it's not illegal to drink. You just can't drive drunk. And so it's just the, I don't know. I just don't get why it's not that complicated. And everybody wants to write some new, we're going to try it new. We're going to give everybody big group hugs, and that's going to work. Okay. I'm telling you, as a criminal defense attorney, the group hug thing isn't going to work. I've met a lot of clients over the years, ladies and gentlemen. The group hug isn't working. It doesn't work. You know what they think? Soft, weak, can take advantage of those people, can totally snow them. Oh, I can get through this. I always thought it was ironic when the drug dealers got drug court. Because guess what? The drug dealer can make it through drug court. Usually the drug dealer is the only one that could make it through drug court because they're not using the stuff. The drug users are the ones that failed out of drug court miserably and went to prison because they couldn't stay clean. So it's just common sense, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to help people. As a very good judge would say often, if you are a drug user, we'll get you treatment. If you're a drug distributor and you're bringing that poison into my community, I am going to punish you. I'm going to send you to prison. It's that simple. It really, really is. All right. Well, I feel like I have just kind of been venting today, and I'm not really sure why. I just don't know. I just think it is the absolute death of common sense these days. I do not get it. Wow, look at all the comments. Yeah, all these people. Yeah, it's shocking to see the children behaving in such a manner. Just wait until they are preteens. They're going to be already in and out of jail. I hope I'm wrong. Boy, do I hope I am wrong. But that young kid, if that's how he reacts to situations, to people in positions of authority, imagine what he does to his other fellow children when he doesn't get his way. And it sounded like the parents were back there kind of rooting him on. I hope I'm wrong, but that kid is probably destined to a life in jail. I don't know if he's just trained that way by the parents or whether he's just not wired correctly or whatever it is. He's just completely antisocial. But I hope somebody can help those kids become productive members of society. I really do, because that is absolutely shocking to me that the parents or any adult would allow that to take place. And not that I am a big fan at all of departments of human services. I am not a big fan of them at all. I oftentimes think they do more than good. But the reality of it is somebody from social services may need to go check on that kid. Okay. So Holly says, first of all, the underwear doesn't matter. I get it. They're young. It's common with white kids also. Second, these kids are taught from a young age and have been traumatized over and over again. I've seen this with pediatric age groups in hospitals. They are angry from a young age because of what they've seen. They are torn kids. They are in survival mode. When cops raid with guns in your house and you don't have the right house, it's what you see. This also happens in third world countries where hunger and survive. I think that's it. Well, Holly, I get it. I get it. What you're saying here. But I don't understand. I don't believe that the kids raided the wrong house. The police raided the wrong house. They were raiding a house where they believe the murder suspect was. I understand these kids are angry, but there are lots of children throughout the world that have seen a lot. It doesn't mean that they don't, the manners just all have to go away. Those police officers look like they were basically standing there. I get it. They're young. You can say, oh, they've been traumatized, life situations. But you know what? I've seen lots of kids that have been traumatized, war, poverty, abuse, but they don't go up and start hitting police officers at a very young age. So I just don't think that is a good one. Mary, spanking never hurt mine. I don't think I ever spanked my children. Maybe once, like a swat up the stairs, like, you're gonna get. It was nothing that was gonna harm anybody. But I remember my wife, the time we come home from work, and she was all distraught, and she was very like, I'm never gonna touch spank my children. It's gonna be very, we're gonna have timeouts, and we're very modern, up to date on parenting. Because I would tell her my experience from my parents. My mother would usually be the one upset and say, telling my brothers and I to get inside. And she would stand at the back door with a spatula or a spoon. And as we ran by, she would whack us, or with a yardstick or a big old long stick. But hey, it kept you in line. I think I turned out relatively okay. I don't go around hitting, assaulting people, claiming that I am a victim of violence and abuse. And it is what it is. And I came home one night and my wife was like, I can't believe I did it, but I was so frustrated. I did it. I swatted our son. I wasn't hurt or anything, but she just felt so bad. But she was like, but it stopped. He listened. And that's usually, anytime there was a little SWAT like that, it was more of a, we're going to listen. I, however, would use the former drill instructor voice and would do a countdown. And my kids knew we started at 5. We're going to go upstairs. We're going to wash our face. We're going to brush our teeth. We're going to get into bed. You've got 5, 4. And I get closer. 3. And they were scrambling. We get to 2. And they really get out of bed like, oh. And 1. And of course, I knew they were already in the bed. So like they made it just barely. But yeah. When kids are younger, and then they get older. All right. Well, I cannot believe how quickly the night has gone. Already over an hour. Can you believe that? Wow. All right. Well, if you'd like to continue the conversation, guess what? You can join us on our Patreon show. You can become a Patreon, I think for as little as $5. And we get to do an extra hour. We're going to answer your questions. Obviously, there's a lot less people there. So if you do that, and we will give you a number so that you can call in and speak with us as well. And yeah, I think it's worth it. And when you sign up, you get all this cool stuff, the trial guides that, gives you, explains the rules of evidence, objections, things like that. And basically you just get to hang with us even just a little bit longer. So hopefully you like that and you think it's, it's worth it. I think it is. We try to make it worth it. If not, we'll certainly do that. So we will see you all. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. Totally forgot to do any of our little commercial plugs, so we'll have to do that some other time. And wow, I can't believe all the comments we had tonight. You guys were crazy on the comments. That's great. I love it. Let's see here. Yeah, well, sorry, the trauma everyone had to go through. Yeah, lots of people go through that stuff. It's not an excuse. I mean, as my mother used to say, there's no excuse for bad manners. Bottom line, that's just the way it is. But it doesn't seem like people have manners anymore these days. I just don't get it. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. See all of our Patreons over there in just a few minutes.